Hey guys, I
This
found
is
the
Professor
video
Fur's
in
research
the
log
band
number
You
42069.
showing me see my
yes,
way
of
out.
course.
And we'll
Well,
be
I've
trying
finally
to
done
find more.
it. Oh, I am so pleased with these results. And with this project finally at its end, I will use this log entry to summarize the entire thing. Here it goes. Hello, I am Professor Fur, one of two main Pokemon professors in the Cascade region. My specific field of study is learning more about this region's unique weather system, which is caused by the 4 roaming legendary Pokemon constantly rotating the seasons. These constant shifts have made some of the Pokemon here able to use moves and abilities that they are incapable of in other regions, mainly moves that affect their immediate environment, essentially battlefield-sized weather anomalies. I've dubbed this simply Weather Energy, or Weathergy, because I'm uncreative. That's not my job as a professor. But one thing I noticed while out doing my research is that my partner Pokemon, Castform, apparently has more forms here than anywhere else in the world, as pointed out to me by Castform's original creator. Apparently, in other regions, there is only a sunny, snowy, and rainy form. But out here, I was regularly encountering several more, so I made it a mission of mine to discover a form of Castform for every type, which is clearly easier said than done. Several of the types were of no issue. It was only a matter of putting it into a battlefield with some of our unique Weathergy. I'll explain these findings now. The first new variant I encountered was its grass-type form, Pollinated. I encounter Histamine swarms nearly every day that I gather field data in a spring part of the region. So, we were constantly surrounded by a swirl of their pollen. My poor little Castform, though, he seems strained in this form, and is having a bit of a difficult time not sneezing. But in this form, notably, its Weather Ball attack is so packed with pollen that it becomes a ranged physical grass-type attack. Now, if instead of pollen, the air is filled with poisonous gas, Castform enters a smog form, rendering itself and its allies immune to the poisonous air, while also further poisoning the enemy team a bit more so than what the air is already doing. Another variant common in the Cascade region is the Rock-type variant, which is caused by being in a sandstorm. Here, its Weather Ball turns physical as well, and it seems like it's able to protect its teammates from the effect of the sandstorm. Which, when I brought this up to his creators, they mentioned not knowing of such an ability at all. Same with the poison form. I guess here in Cascade, on top of its form changing with the weather, it gains a sort of secondary ability in certain forms as well. The flying type variant is a fairly easy form for it to enter as well. Any frequent amount of high wind with no other effects will cause its body to stretch and twirl around itself, making it almost like a sentient little hurricane. It's very cute. Interestingly enough, when a Castform is in this form, it is significantly more difficult for other enemy Pokemon to change the weather. It's as if this form of Castform is blowing any of their new effects away. But it only works once, as it then reverts back to its original form after doing so. Visually, it is similar to its ground-type variant, where Castform becomes a sort of mini tornado or a dust devil, picking up sand and dirt beneath it. Its Weather Ball in this form can hit enemies even while underground by first exposing them, and if it does so, it will then cause a sandstorm, which, funnily enough, changes Castform to its Rock-type form. A curious behavior, indeed. Another easy form for it to get into is its Electric-type form. Simply being in a thunderstorm with a charged battlefield will activate it. And its effect here is interesting. It acts a bit like a lightning rod. It will absorb any electric attack that it or its allies are dealt, though it still takes some damage from doing this. But in return, its next Weather Ball attack is not only electric type, but also more powerful thanks to the added electricity. More research is needed to determine how much power this little body of its can hold. Now, even the Ghost-type Pokemon in the Cascade region have this extra weather energy, which has led to a new sort of weather effect, which we've dubbed Cursed Winds. Essentially, the wind blows with an eerie howl and bone-chilling sensation that cools those exposed to it without actually lowering the temperature. Silphscope scans indicate sort of ghost tears in the vicinity of these winds, perhaps a ghostly realm sort of leaking into our own. More research will need to be done here, but the Ghost-type Castform renders it immune to normal and fighting-type attacks, while also warding off the spirits of the Cursed Winds from its side of the battlefield, which of course causes them to move more over to its enemy's side, increasing the effects of the Cursed Winds. To the point of paralysis even, due to the fear and the grip of the Cursed Ones. I'm not sure I'm brave enough to continue researching this particular form. Experts will be needed. Mediums. And the last of the easier forms to achieve is the Psychic type form. Psychic type Pokemon in the Cascade region also have their own sort of weather, though a weather barrier or filter of sorts would be a better description. They put a weird sort of psychic field around the battle arena. I've read in other regions that some psychic Pokemon are able to create psychic terrain, and this is essentially that. The filter seems to amplify the effects of the stars above, boosting their psychic power even more, and it's quite beautiful, I must admit. But when in this effect, Castform becomes sort of clairvoyant and begins meditation. When meditating, it doesn't seem to attack. It can still use status moves, though, but if it has an ally on the battlefield, it will amplify all of their attacks with added psychic energy, seemingly pushing its ally further with the aid of telekinesis. And I should note that this effect seems to last for a short while, so switching the Castform out with another Pokemon and wait, we'll see the effect continue to last for that Pokemon for a brief moment. I'm sure some expert trainers can see value in this. But into it can unlock some more potential within itself and gain access to more forms. So now, with enough infinity energy in the air, it will become its Dragon type form. Every turn, its attack and defense stats grow, but it also just takes ever-increasing damage to itself, similar to the effects of the move Toxic. It seems that its body isn't meant for this kind of arcane power. Now, when a Pokemon causes Overcast and a Blood Moon, Castform not only changes its form, but its personality as well. When in this Dark-type form, all of its stats raise a bit, but it won't listen to a word that I say. It thinks it's being sly or mischievous or something of the sort. An unfortunate effect, but an easy one to break at least. Simply a change of the weather will cause it to change its form and snap out of the attitude, but it keeps the stat boosts, which is quite nice. Now, similar to pollinated air, many fairy-type Pokemon in the Cascade region have learned that they can fill the air with a pleasant scent on the breeze by filling it with a sort of fairy dust, which lowers evasiveness and heals everyone around. Besides dragons and ghosts, of course. And fellow fairies and grass types heal even more so. But now, thanks to this weather gem, Castform can change into their fairy form, which will actually double the healing of it and its allies. And its Weather Ball attack heals whomever it hits even further, which can include itself now. And also similar to pollinated air, bugs will sometimes fill the air with pheromones. They tend not to smell very good at all, but they and Poison-type Pokemon seem to like it, as it increases their speed and accuracy instead of lowering it for everyone else. And now, thanks to the Weather Gem, Castform sort of integrates the pheromones into its own body, affording a cloud of pheromones around itself, which protects it and its allies from the negative effects, and causes the Weather Ball to sort of infest whomever it hits. I've been meaning to look into how infestation works for a while now. Perhaps now that I've found all the Castform forms, I will look into it. Now, the Fighting-type Castform. That one took me a while. I had to further refine the Weather Gem to get it to work. Some Cascadian Fighting-type Pokemon can radiate their fighting spirit into the air around them, like a Lucario's Aura Ball, but always and the entire battlefield. And now, when this happens, Castform can pick up on that and transform into its Fighting-type form. The speed boost that it gets from this is remarkable. It's now among the fastest Pokemon I've ever seen, and it can't seem to sit still, darting back and forth rapidly and now ramming into its foes for every Steel type. This is where I truly struggle. It took me months to figure this one out. Some Steel-type Cascadian Pokemon have a minor effect on the weather and their weather energy, but it's never much. A tweak to the local magnetosphere. It only ever speeds them up slightly and makes them more accurate, but it also makes all electric attacks against them perfectly accurate. I tried so many things to get this to work with Castform, but nothing seems to work. I hate to resort to the same tactics as Tom Bezel, old fratmate, now CEO of Amazon, richest corporation in Cascade and the world soon. See, he's been messing with Pokemon biology for a while, all for corporate gain. There's a modified Steel-type Drifblim that delivers packages, Steel-type Sudowoodo to act as magnetosphere burst clears any weather effects that are already in the battlefield and sets up the steel-type weather effect on top of that. But as a bonus, it boosts its allies' accuracy too, and also acts similarly to the electric form of cast form. But even better, it acts like a lightning rod and pretty much renders its side of the battlefield immune to electric-type attacks. There are a few negatives involved with this, though. The cast form inside doesn't seem to enjoy being in this form. I feel sort of bad putting it through this. Also, it cannot transform into any of its other forms until the whirligig breaks off, which seems to happen after it's taken a few hits. And it still doesn't seem too happy for a while afterwards, too. What have I done? I shouldn't have steeped to these levels.